Alright, so why don't you give us your name and tell us where you're from?
My name is Nelsen Hutchison, and I'm from Alameda, California. It's in the San Francisco Bay Area, close to Oakland.
Cool. Alright, so when do you think you started getting into music?
Well, I started getting into music in the 6th grade. When I was going to middle school, we had a talent show assembly, and there was this rock band that played there. I don't remember the songs or anything, but they played, and it was so powerful. I remember all the kids around me started really getting into it. They were like dancing and moving, and it was really exciting. And I thought that I wanted to do something that could, have that emotional effect on people. I don't know if I thought about it like that at a young age, but I felt that, and that's when I started getting into music.
Cool. So when do you think you started taking it more seriously? I mean, you're taking it pretty seriously now. When do you think you kind of started going more towards that point?
Well, I'd have to say, in high school I got into a little bit of trouble, and I ended up going to a boarding school in, relative isolation in Montana. And out there, before I was mostly playing rock, and my teacher gave me some bluegrass and stuff. But yeah, I didn't play too much jazz at home. But in Montana, I met this saxophone player from New York. I'm still good friends with him, and he started playing me some jazz, and at first I didn't really get into it, but over time, it started to affect me. And out there, there's such confinement, there's so many restrictions, there's nothing around, and that really, after listening to it a while, I started to feel kind of happy and at peace, and it really brought this sensation over me. And over time, once I grasped the concept of jazz, improvisation and playing things, just at the top of your head, making things up, and it's one of the greatest forms of self-expression. It's so in the moment, so honest, and I really started, once I kind of realized all this, and along with the sensation it gave me, I really, I focused my attention on that, and I started getting into it more seriously. Me and my friend, we'd practice it every time we can get. We'd have to practice in the bathrooms, at school. They didn't have any other places for us. We'd, on the hikes that we'd have to go on, we would quiz each other on scales, music theory, and yeah, that's really when I started taking it more seriously. And then right after that, I went home for a little bit, kept practicing, and then me and my friend from boarding school met up again. We decided to go to Berklee College of Music in Boston for a year, and then after a year, I didn't enjoy Boston that much. There just wasn't as much music there, and I decided to come here, and I'm very happy being in New York.
Alright, so I'm just curious, kind of how you feel your playing kind of works in terms of modern jazz.
Well, my playing really comes from the jazz tradition, which to me is bebop and traditional jazz, like Louis Armstrong, Charlie Parker, some of those musicians. And it's traditional jazz really comes from the blues, and it's got a certain amount of kind of raw, just I want to say power to it. It's really much, it's about making things, it's emotional. It makes people dance, it makes people happy, it makes people cry. It's really about making beautiful music. It still has a fair amount of complexity and, interesting rhythms, other, cool things in terms of music, but it's really about the connection to the people. And I'm playing, so I try to base it around that kind of style, really keeping the jazz lineage alive, but doing my own thing with it as well. And now modern music, to me at least these days, jazz is kind of fused with a lot of other musics. There are all these hybrid forms of jazz with rock and pop and Latin music, anything you can think of. And there's also just a fair amount of what I call music for musicians. It's very convoluted and complex, and there are all these crazy rhythmic figures, and you know, abstract harmonic ideas, and you know, some things work, but I think overall it kind of loses its connection to people in a way. It you know, it kind of loses that emotion, and it takes away what made the music, you know, so effective and, you know, beautiful to me. So, you know, jazz today, you know, it looks like it's kind of going further in that direction, but, you know, as in classical music and a lot of other musics, you know, sometimes when things go really far out, they start to come back in, and, you know, that's where I come in. I'm hoping that I can kind of, with my playing, reconnect jazz to its past and kind of, you know, bring that emotional, you know, that side that really speaks to people back in.
Cool, cool. Well, thanks for talking to me. Everything you said was interesting, and I'm glad we got to do this. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.